My name is Ashley Ford, 26 years old, and my boyfriend's name is Dennis. We met in college, but Dennis was a wimp, the timid type, but we never really fought, and being together was just so comfortable. I think I was the one who was more in love with him than he was with me. And, actually, we had finally started moving towards marriage. And finally, my long-cherished wish was coming true, and I was over the moon. But then, the RSVP from Dennis's childhood friend came back, and it was just awful. A string of abusive language, just when I thought we were finally moving towards marriage. We had never been able to find the right timing before. Dennis had an accident and got injured, and both my grandmother and Dennis's passed away. So the timing was never right. That's why I felt even stronger about getting married. But there was something that bothered me. There was this girl named Melissa among Dennis's childhood friends. She sent back an invitation filled with abusive language, and I was troubled, just when I thought we were finally getting married. I started to worry if we could have the ceremony without any trouble. Melissa is completely different from Dennis in personality, but they seem to get along well and are very close. Furthermore, there was an incident that made those two even closer. A long time ago, when Dennis was bullied, Melissa helped him out, and that was the start. Because the strong-willed Melissa helped him, now he can't stand up to her at all. And so, the invitation was filled with terrible insults like infertile woman, cheating woman, and ugly as sin. We decided to invite her to the wedding because she's a childhood friend of Dennis's and seems like an important person. But what the heck, since I met Dennis, I've been devoted to him and never flirted with anyone else. What does she even know about me? Well, I'm not a beauty, so I guess I can't help being called ugly. But isn't that defamation? I just couldn't understand why she would send something like this. From my point of view, we both became working adults, worked hard, saved money for the wedding, and finally, the timing was right and everything was going smoothly. Since Dennis and I couldn't figure it out, we decided to consult his mom, and she agreed to deal with that directly. But just when I felt relieved, Melissa came on strong to Dennis's mom too, saying things like,
"Are you really going to let someone like her into the family? I know Dennis better than anyone. At least let me see Dennis's big day."
She's been involved with his mother for a long time, and she seemed very entitled. But I was puzzled as to how she knew about the infertility. I went to a different college than Melissa, and she shouldn't know anything about me, and I've never talked about my family's history with anyone else. To be correct, it's not infertility, but a family history of having difficulty conceiving. But I've never met Melissa even once. Then one day, as I was worrying, Dennis finally said with resolve,
"I won't invite that person to the wedding. I'm sorry I couldn't stand up to her."
After that, he said that to her face, but she didn't listen, saying things like,
You're having the wedding without me. That doesn't make sense. That's unbelievable. Don't you understand? It's your big day. I should at least be able to attend, right? Why not?"
Dennis couldn't say anything back to the assertive Melissa, and at that moment, I was utterly disappointed in him. By this time, I started to reconsider whether it was really okay to marry Dennis in an environment where someone like Melissa could interfere. So, I decided to fight back. I was determined to make it uncomfortable for her on the wedding day by using this situation. I didn't care what happened anymore. If Dennis's relatives and parents thought I was a strong bride, that would be fine. And then I put a certain plan into action. I had met some of Dennis's cousins and relatives to some extent, and actually, they kind of liked me. So I thought I could use this good relationship with the relatives to my advantage. And I sent the RSVP that came back from Melissa to Dennis's relatives. This way, even if she came on the wedding day, she would feel uncomfortable, and I hoped that some relatives might speak up for me instead. When I told Dennis's relatives about everything that had happened, they took my side. Then one of Dennis's relatives noticed something. Actually, this relative was a judge in a certain contest that decides the state's pageant. It seems there was talk beforehand that there were several candidates for the win among the judges and staff of this contest. and one of them was Melissa.
Could this be something we could use in the future?
That sounds good.
If you'd like, come and watch.
Got it.
This girl, she's Dennis's childhood friend, but I've never liked her, not since back in the day.
Everyone has their types they can't stand.
I especially can't stand her, because she's so strong-willed, right? I particularly hate that queen-like attitude.
Has she always been like that?
But well, she does have a pretty face.
And then, the relatives suggested, let's put Melissa in her place. She's a strong-willed woman, but she's a beauty with a tough-looking appearance. So, internally I thought, of course, she could be in such a contest. And then, on the day of the contest, I was invited to this contest. Personally, I was thrilled at the prospect of being able to fight back. In the contest, Melissa made it to the final showdown. The plan was to punish her with a judge who was a relative afterward, but an event occurred that forced us to change our plans. Actually, Dennis and Melissa were having an affair. She had advanced to the final selection, and she seemed to be savoring her joy in a corner of the hallway at the venue. The two of them were hugging. So, just in case, I recorded the scene. The son of the judge had been filming from an early stage in case something happened, and he managed to capture that moment perfectly, but seeing that situation tore me apart.
I made it to the final selection.
Congratulations.
I'm so happy I can't stand it. I'm definitely going to win. And thanks for coming today.
Isn't your husband here today?
He's on an important business trip that he couldn't miss. But hey, you're getting married, right? Should you be here?
Well, it wouldn't mean anything if I didn't see your big moment, right?
Awesome. Thanks. But it's sad that you're getting married.
That girl, she earns well, and her family's well off. So getting married is advantageous, and I can brag about it.
That? I might win the contest, you know? I'm definitely the better woman.
Well, after we're married, she won't be able to be too high and mighty, so don't worry.
Haha, I gave her a piece of my mind.
That abuse was too much. But still, my acting is amazing, right? I asked casually, as if I wasn't too interested.
That's amazing. But won't she break up with you if she finds out?
She's smitten with me, so she won't say anything about breaking up. Besides, she's not as strong-willed as you.
We can always be together, right? We're a good match.
Well, nothing's going to change between us.
I hope it stays this way forever.
I was pretty down, but then anger started to well up. After the anger came, I was about to explode. I couldn't believe it. Dennis was the root of it all. To think I was about to marry such a guy. Sure, I had casually mentioned it to Dennis. And to think he saw me in that way. That was the moment I really understood how unreliable he was. Wasn't he unable to stand up to Melissa? Did he want to please both sides? Well, if he was cheating with Melissa, that figures, doesn't it? Even though Dennis was unreliable, we got along well. Even in silence, it was comfortable. And the wedding was supposed to be a once-in-a-lifetime celebration. That jerk. Actually, it's a good thing I saw his true colors before we got married. I've made up my mind. I was ready to break up. No, to call off the engagement.
We were planning to teach her a lesson here, but it turned into quite the situation, though. What do you want to do?
I want to use this situation at the wedding.
Let's make good use of this situation. For her, it'll be from heaven to hell.
I'll get back at her.
And to think, he was cheating on you. Are you okay, Ashley?
I'm seething.
I bet. Let's revise the plan thoroughly.
Yes, I'm really angry. So, after talking with the relatives, we decided to use the wedding to teach her a lesson. Looking back, I realized I didn't have much of an opinion of my own. I was easily swayed by others, and he never did what I asked promptly. I'll make sure to get a hefty sum for the wedding expenses and as compensation for the affair. She must have worked really hard, I thought, but it made for the perfect situation to bring her down to hell. Actually, it seems the relative who was a judge in the contest had pulled some strings to make her win. Finally, on the wedding day, people from Dennis's workplace were also there. Moreover, although Dennis and Melissa were in different departments, They were from the same company, which made it perfect for retribution. I'll drop her into hell. Thanks to the relatives, we got the contest video perfectly, and people from Dennis's and Melissa's workplace were coming. This wedding was the perfect opportunity, so I invited Melissa's husband regardless of relatives or workplace. Since Melissa's husband wasn't at the contest, thinking about that day made me shiver with anticipation. And then, the ceremony started and it was time for the vows. Before the priest could start talking, I shouted, "Surprise time."
How? What?
I had talked to the priest beforehand. I grabbed the microphone the priest was supposed to use and shouted. It was a wedding venue, but they cooperated and put up a white sheet on the wall for us. And then, as if to break Melissa's nose, I projected that invitation on the screen. The relative who was a judge in the contest started reading it out. Of course, I signaled the staff to turn off the lights.
What is this? Isn't that one of the judges?
The venue started buzzing. What on earth was this? The venue was at a loss for words due to the sheer amount of abuse. After the relative finished reading the abusive speech from Melissa's returned invitation, the video switched to the scene of the affair.
Hey, what is this? Turn it off right now.
Take a good look. Isn't that Dennis? Someone said, and the venue erupted again. Moreover, colleagues from both of their workplaces were present. It seemed that some friends who had come to support the contest that day were also there. "Is this okay?" was heard from various places. The contest Melissa participated in was about judging the beauty and grace of American women. It seems that's how she was known at her workplace. Melissa started getting cold looks from her coworkers and began to panic. She couldn't handle it herself and ended up crying. While shocked to see her crying, I took in the scene at the venue. It was the perfect revenge. And looking to the side, her husband looked like he was about to throw a punch, with a furious expression on his face. I was scared, but I didn't care anymore. Actually, I felt relieved. Then I announced, "Due to these circumstances, I regret to say that I am calling off the engagement." I wanted you all to be witnesses in a different sense. You're all bystanders now.
What? What are you talking about? And what about the wedding?
How can you say that when you were cheating? You got what you deserved. By the way, I had already told Dennis's mom and the relatives about this. I kept it a secret from Dennis though. As expected, the guests started making a fuss and the ceremony was halted. It was chaos. But in that situation, I somehow found it amusing. I wondered why I had been so troubled when I could finally fight back. I became defiant and found it funny. In the end, because of the report from the relatives, Melissa's contest win was revoked. Later, she and her husband came to my house to apologize.
"We're terribly sorry for the outrageous thing she did. Go on, apologize properly."
I'm sorry.
"I'm really sorry for involving Dennis."
Then they started explaining the background.
I used to date Dennis back in high school. After that, we broke up and I got married.
If you had just stayed together from the start, wouldn't that have been better?
Looking back, maybe, but I was quite dissatisfied. My husband earns well but is hardly ever home.
Moreover, it seemed like her husband married her more for her looks and status, so she didn't feel loved. Hearing this, her husband also looked remorseful.
Also, I found out that I'm infertile. But I still wanted children.
Apparently, her longing for children grew stronger.
I was struggling with my situation. And when I met Dennis again after a long time, we rekindled our relationship. He was kind to me, so I took advantage of that. But at the same time, I was terrified that the affair would be discovered.
Then you shouldn't have started an affair in the first place. You should have talked it out with your husband.
You're right.
Melissa was thinking to make a fuss about these things to draw attention to herself and away from her problems, including her husband's. Even though she's not family and it's not a problem, she made it seem as if someone else was to blame, which was infuriating. I felt a bit sorry for her, but I threw the water I was holding in my tumbler at her. I made sure not to splash her husband though.
I'm soaking wet. This is the worst. What are you going to do about this?
You be quiet for now.
Do you know how much I've suffered? And to think you were cheating with Dennis.
We're very sorry. We heard the wedding expenses haven't been paid yet. Here, we'd like to pay for the wedding. Actually, we'll make her take responsibility and pay.
That? What? Wait a minute.
That? Who told you that?
Dennis did.
It was indeed a pay later venue. I had planned to bill her for the wedding expenses anyway, so this saved me the trouble. Originally, it was the relatives' idea to bill Dennis and Melissa for the wedding expenses. While I was at it, I told them to make sure to pay a hefty sum for the damages as well. Expect a hefty sum, so be prepared for that.
What? Wedding expenses? Why me? And this is a different thing. What are you talking about?
Understood. That's fine. We're truly sorry for the trouble we've caused.
And with that, they left. After that, it seems Melissa ended up getting divorced. Since she was also the one who cheated, her ex-husband apparently demanded alimony from her. Wedding expenses and 2 alimony to pay, a triple punch. Of course, I broke up with Dennis after that. I didn't want to be with someone like that. I made sure to get a proper alimony from Dennis. Melissa and Dennis, being from the same company, became uncomfortable there because of the gossip-loving colleagues who came to support the contest. They both ended up resigning on their own. Dennis is apparently doing construction work until he finds a new well-paying job. He's working hard and sweating it out. Meanwhile, Melissa seems to be living quietly, relying on her parents. I don't know exactly what kind of job she's doing, but it seems to be something out of the public eye. I think this rumor will continue for a while. It's been quite a challenge in many ways. As for me, I earn well. Plus, my family is stable, and since I got a hefty sum in alimony, I'm planning to start investing. I've decided to move back to my hometown, but not to my parents' house. I'm considering whether to buy a new house or go on an overseas trip. For now, after all that's happened, I think I'll just take it easy for a while.